you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one. And there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruach. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruach. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruach. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer. Draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruach. I will wait for you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will worship you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will wait for you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will worship you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your ruah. I will wait for you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will worship you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will wait for you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will worship you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you, and I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait on you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your ruah. I will wait for you. Oh, Yahuwah, in the beauty of your ruah. I will worship you. Yahuwah, I thirst for you. And I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait for you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you. And I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait for you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Yahuwah, I thirst for you. And I long to be in your presence. My soul will wait for you. Abba, draw me nearer, draw me nearer to the beauty of your Ruah. Allah, Yahuwah. Come on, praise him, praise him. Come on, praise him, praise him. Give him praise, give him esteem. Come on, praise him, praise him. He's worthy of all praise, he's worthy of all esteem. Come on, believe him, believe him. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. We do appreciate him for yet one more opportunity to be in the land of the living, to celebrate, commemorate, and to praise him for yet another time of Sabbath rest. This is our pre-Sabbath class, and I want to say Todah, Todah, Todah Rabbah to you for coming in and sharing this time with us. We know that this has been a very trying time for many of us, but we yet want to continue to persevere, and we want to continue those that have lost loved ones in this time. Once again, we know it's been very trying for many of us this week, and as we have transitioned into another time to continue to keep those that are bereaving up in prayer. We want to keep the family, the friends. We want to keep those up in prayer that have gone through some things during this time. We ahab you with the ahab of Abba Yahuwah. And so with that being said, once again, we appreciate you for spending this time with us as we continue to move forward. Now, we want to begin with the Baruch of the Torah. Let us say this together. Baruch Yahuwah,
Baruch Yahuwah,
the Baruch one.
the Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah,
Baruch is Yahuwah,
the Baruch one,
the Baruch one.
for all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one,
our supreme one,
King of the universe,
King of the universe,
who selected us from all the peoples,
who selected us from all the peoples,
and gave us his Torah.
and gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah,
giver of the Torah.
and it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one,
our supreme one,
King of the universe,
King of the universe,
who gave us the Torah of truth,
who gave us the Torah of truth,
and implanted eternal life within us.
and implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah,
giver of the Torah.
and it is so.
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 Devarim 5, verses 6 to 22. Aleph, I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Israel from the bed of slavery. Bet you shall know the power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the mind beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that hate me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your image, Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. Why? You shall not murder. Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Het, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. You, neither shall you desire your neighbor's issue, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bet, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. Devarim chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. And it reads, these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power, commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the yamim of your life, and that your yamim may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shema Yasharal, Yahuwah our power, Yahuwah is a God. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is a God. And you shall ahab Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall to what?
Bind to the mind.
To bind to the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after other power of the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah your power has sworn unto you, your Abbas, and it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right, let us have another song, please.
Be magnified, be magnified,
magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in this temple. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Yahuwah, be thou magnified. 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 Come on, praise him, hallelujah. We do praise you, we do praise you, we do esteem you, we do magnify you. Worthy, worthy, worthy is our King. We do a hobby. Come on, praise him, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Worthy, worthy, worthy is our King. Worthy, worthy, worthy is our power. Worthy, worthy, worthy. We do a hobby, and it is so. He is our leader, he is our guide, and we do appreciate him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. We now want to turn our attention to Yahush, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. Verse 7, we're going to read. Verse 8, we're going to, confess. Verse 7 says, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit our time of confession. Let us confess this together. I will not let this scroll of the Torah
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth,
but I shall meditate in it,
but I shall meditate in it,
Yom and Layla,
Yom and Layla,
that I may observe to do
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous,
And then I shall make my way prosperous,
and then I shall act wisely.
and then I shall act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely,
And you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor and tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Come on, take your hand and place it over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. I endeavor every day of my life to act wisely.
Sorry.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right, let us have one more song, please.
We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahweh. we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise. We bring sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. We bring sacrifice of praise into the house of Yahuwah. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of praise.
Come on, sacrifice of praise. Come on, Yahuwah. Come on, praise him. Offer up a sacrifice of praise. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. Yahuwah, you're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. We take this time to praise you. We take this time to tell you how much we appreciate you, how much we adore you, how much we need you, how much we can't afford not to have you in our lives. We appreciate you, Abba Yahuwah. We appreciate you for your gift of your son, Yahushua Mashiach. We appreciate you, we praise you, and we truly do todah you for all that you're doing, all that you've done, and all that you're yet going to do in the lives of us, your people. And it is so.
And it is so.
Mishlei 15:8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Romaiah 14:17-18, for the kingdom of Yahuwah is not meat and drink, but of brightness and shalom and joy in the Ruach HaKodesh. For in these things serveth Yahush is acceptable to Yahuwah and approved of men, and it is so.
And it is so.
Excuse me. Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of Abba Yahuwah, and he doth meditate upon it. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Abram 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 34:15, the eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Verse 17, the upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth and delivereth them out of all their troubles. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Yehukin and Aleph 2:5-6, and it reads, but whoever guards his word, his Torah, truly the Ahab of Yahuwah has been perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. Verse 6, the one who says he lives in him ought himself also to walk even as he walked. Yehukin and Aleph chapter 5, verses 3. through 15, and it reads, "For this is the Ahab of Yahuwah, or for Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult. Because everyone having been begotten of Yahuwah overcomes the world. And this is the overcoming that has overcome the world." Excuse me, our belief. Who is the one who overcomes the world, but he who believes that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah? This is the one that came by water and blood, Yahush Mashiach, not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach who bears witness, because the Ruach is the truth. Because there are three who bear witness, the Ruach and the water and the blood, and the three are in agreement.
Yes.
We receive the witness. If we receive the witness of men, the witness of Yahuwah is greater, because this is the witness of Yahuwah, which he has witnessed concerning his son. The one who believes in the son of Yahuwah has the witness in himself. The one who does not believe Yahuwah has made him a liar, because he has not believed the witness that Yahuwah has given concerning his son. And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us, eternal life. And this life is in his son. Somebody say the life is in the son.
The life is in the son.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us, eternal life. And this life is in his son. He who possesses the son possesses life. He who does not possess the son of Yahuwah does not possess life. I have written this to you who believe in the name of Yahuwah, so that in the name of the son of Yahuwah, so that you know that you possess everlasting life, and so that you believe. This is the boldness that we have in him, that if we ask whatever according to his desire, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so very important that we understand that without Yahush in your life, it's impossible truly to receive from the Abba or get anything from the Abba.
Sorry.
Now, many people would try to say differently. I've heard many people talk about, and this is not our lesson, but I've heard many people that say, well, the renewed covenant, once again, understand it is not the New Testament, it is the renewed covenant, that the renewed covenant is obsolete and that man created it. Man did not create it. You have to understand there are a lot of theologians out there, and there is a lot of interpretations out there, and there is so much information out there that we have to be careful of the information that we ingest. Whenever you ingest something that's poisonous, it begins to do what? Affect your body. When you ingest something that is poisonous concerning this walk, guess what it does? It begins to attack your belief. And when your belief system is broken down, then that means your experience with Abba Yahuwah no longer matters. And this is why it's important that we remain committed and not allow the enemy to destroy our belief in Abba Yahuwah. Very important. Why is it important? Because the moment you start doubting is the moment you will begin to find yourself walking out of truth. And this is important to us as a people, because if we lose belief and we stop believing, then what do we have? It is important that we not reject the gift that he's given unto us, neither reject the mediator, because Yahush is our mediator. And this is very important for us to remember and to understand, and it is so.
And it is so.
All right, now we're going to do our affirmation, something to help us remind us, which we, not that we forget or we are forgetful, but it is something that we do whenever you are making commitments to yourself or making commitments to anybody. You constantly go back over those commitments. You constantly go back over those things. Why? Because you are training yourself, your mind, your will. You're training your will and your mind to do just what you put your mouth out there to do. It's the same thing with walking in truth. When we have made a conscious decision to walk in truth, we remind ourselves of it. Not only just by reading, but also by confessing it in the atmosphere, that we're going to stand, and that no matter what comes across our plate, no matter what we hear, no matter what we see, we are going to be committed and we're going to be truthful unto the Abba. And so this is what we do. These are our affirmations that we speak into not just the atmosphere, but also into our Ruach, so that we make a conscious contract with ourselves to do these things. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right, repeat with me. I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I have the life and nature
I have the life and nature
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
of Yahuwah in my ruach.
That life is the Torah
That life is the Torah
of Yasharal.
of Yahshua.
I purpose to walk
I purpose to walk
in the Torah of life.
in the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahush,
Yahush,
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's ahab
Yahuwah's ahab
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching me.
He is leading me.
He is leading me.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach
The Ruach
HaKodesh
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah in me
of Yahuwah in me
is leading me.
is leading me.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah,
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now we're going to do our declaration. And it is so.
And it is so.
Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
in the name of Yahush,
in the name of Yahush,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach.
we subdue ignorance
We subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation.
and salvation.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people, Yasharal.
Yahshua.
We unite
We unite
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other, but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now let us stand and bow before our King. All right, let us bow before our King and let us say this together. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
You may be seated in His presence. Once again, those of you that are watching, pray with us, bear with us. As soon as we get on, the enemy always starts messing with the internet, always starts slowing it down and trying to stop us, but I won't be stopped. I won't be blocked. I will continue to do. I just pray that you would pray with us and have patience with us because it's really just the enemy doing, it's not on data. All right. Doing what he tries to do, and that's to discourage. You know, he comes to steal, kill, and what? To destroy. But that's if we let him. We can't allow him to destroy our belief. We have to continue to push forward and continue to give the Abba praise for that what he has done and that what he will continue to do in our lives. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, this theme, once again, our theme, as we have a theme every Shabbat, is excuse me, Wayigash, and it means, and he drew near. And he drew near. Once again, Wayigash, and he drew near. And we'll be coming from Bereshit, which is Genesis chapter 44. And we're going to begin at verse 18. We're going to pick up from where we took off on last Shabbat. It seemed like it came back around so fast. But we appreciate Abba Yahuwah. And so we are back in the house of Yosef. And Yosef has just declared that he is going to do a thing unto, he is going to keep one of the sons or his brother. And so as we look at this, Yehuda is now pleading his cause because he realizes that if Yosef is able to keep Benjamin, it is going to cause his papa, his Abba, to die. He understands that This is the reason why he didn't want him to go. And so here it is, Joseph, we understand, is doing this. Now, we could assume many things. As I said on last week, those of you that may not have seen the teaching, I encourage you to go back because I bring out different things. My goal and my desire as I teach is to be able to connect those scenarios and situations and issues with the time and day we live in, being able to draw from those experiences, draw conclusions and draw victory, draw our strength, and be able to look at it and say, hey, if they were able to do that, so can we. If they did that and we know it got them in trouble, then we don't want to do that. So we want to be able to take what we learn and apply it to our time right now. And so as we look at a family that was called and chosen by the Abba, but they had many issues. You're going to have issues as a mishpachah. And that's one of the things that helps us to pray and helps us to stay in the writings of the word,
Right.
is that we realize we have issues.
Right.
And these issues many times either are going to do one or two things: break us as a family or make us as a family.
Right.
And so we look and we see in the beginning that Joseph, how he gets to Mitzrayim is because he is lowered into a pit, which he is sold to the Yashmaelites. And so as he was sold to them, we realize that this was a part of the plan of Abba Yahuwah, because he had to get there so that he would be able to walk in the calling that Abba Yahuwah had called him to. You have to understand, it was not just for Mitzrayim, but it truly, the purpose of him being in Mitzrayim was to secure his family, his mishpachah, the children of Yasharal.
Right.
And so it is important that we understand where they are at this point in the writings. And so Yehuda is here because he is pleading the cause. Because remember, Yehuda made a promise and he said, look, give him to me. I promise you, I will bring him back. I will make sure he gets back. We know Reuben tried, but Reuben's attempt was a failed attempt. Reuben was even willing to sacrifice his two sons if he did not bring it back. But if you read it, you realize and you see that it did not move Yaakov. He was not moved by that.
Right.
And so, but Yehuda was able to convince him to allow Benjamin to go. And now, because it's at a point where he's saying he's going to be kept, now Yehuda is stepping in. He said, no, this can't be done. If you notice, Yehuda was one that was very outspoken.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He was very outspoken. And so now we're going to take up from there in chapter 44, verse 18. And once again, it is Wayigash. And it means, once again, and it means, and he drew near. So we're going to begin at verse 18 and we're going to read, let's read 8 verses, please.
And it is so.
1-6.
And it is so.
Then Yehuda came near to him and said, O my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing. And do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are even like Pharaoh. My master asked his servant, saying, have you a father or a brother? And we said to my master, we have a father, an Abba, an elderly man, and a child of his old age who is young. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his Emus children, and his Abba Ahabzah. And you said to your servants, bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. And we have said to my master, the lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his Abba would die. And you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall see my face no more. So it was when we went up to your servant, my Abba, that we told him the words of my master. And our Abba said, go back and buy us a little food. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, let's look at this. Now, Yehuda is very smart, and he is a listener. He is a listener. Now, he told him, he said, look, he said, we cannot. He said, you asked us to bring him back. Literally, he is pleading his cause, and he's saying, look, we have to beg him to bring him. Because remember, Yehuda did, Yaakov did not trust them with Benjamin. Because I truly believe that he felt in his heart of hearts that they had something to do with Joseph's death. or with, them believing that he was dead. And so I believe that there was just something, that parental instinct that said they had something to do with it. And because of jealousy, I don't want him to go. But because Yehuda spoke up and said, but if we don't do this, we can't eat. And if we don't do this, then what about us? How are we going to survive? We won't be able to survive. And so he allows him to go with them. Now, it's important for us to understand Joseph is doing all this because I believe it was just his way of testing their hearts to see how far they were willing to go with their baby brother. Now, you have to remember, they sold him without a thought. They had no problem with selling him, not really knowing where he would end up, not knowing if they were going to kill him. They could have cooked him up and ate him. They really didn't know. Right. But they were so angry with him and jealous of him that they didn't care what happened to him. Right. As I said before on last week in the teaching, it is important for us as parents, if you are a parent, if you are an uncle or an aunt, whatever you may be, it is important that we never show favoritism. Because the moment you do that, you have just planted a seed for hatred to be in the midst of your mishpachah. Yeah. And so it is important that we never do that, that we always maintain a level of equality and let it be equal. You wouldn't deal with a 5-year-old like you deal with a 22-year-old, but time is time. And so it is important. Many people say, well, the 5-year-old might need more time. The 22-year-old may need as much time. Never, ever say a person needs a certain amount of time unless you yourself have walked through with them and, they have agreed that, I really don't need that much time. But be rest assured that if you are not investing that time, somebody else will. And so we realize and we see that even though Yaakov was chosen by the Abba, his parenting skills were questionable. His parenting skills were not at 100%. Are y'all following me? Yes. And the reason it wasn't is because he had no problem with showing favoritism. Now, I'm sure and I'm persuaded that the older he got, he began to see the errors of his ways and how he possibly could have changed that. Now, somebody would say, but the writings does not say that. It doesn't have to. If you read and you can understand and you can really tap in and see what was going on, you can understand, unless you are just blinded and hard-hearted, to see that when you do or exalt another child over another one, that there's not going to be problems. Something is wrong. Right. And we really need to fast and pray. And so we see this. Now, when we look at this, he says, let not thine anger burn, because he realizes now he's pushing the envelope. This indicates that Yehuda addressed Joseph in harsh terms. He said, do not be angry when I tell you that you are the cause of all this trouble. In other words, as I said before, Yehuda is very outspoken. He even spoke to his father and he said, look, if we don't do this, we're not going to eat. We're not going to live. Right. You've got to do this. So when you look at Yehuda, you can see that he is a very outspoken person. Right. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that people that say they are from Yehuda, and I'm not saying that people that are not from Yehuda are not outspoken. But this is some of the characteristics that we can see that when you are a part of this tribe, that people are very outspoken. Very outspoken. They're going to get their point across. They're going to say what they have to say because they want you to understand. Now, I didn't say they went through all this with defaming anybody and trying to tear anybody down. He had to understand now because he had to walk lightly. Because remember, he saw when Joseph had Simeon taken and hogtied and put in prison. So you have to understand, you got to use wisdom. And so he is addressing him. He said, for thou art even as Pharaoh. The plain meaning is, I esteem you as much as the king. Now, the Midrash interprets, you will be smitten with leprosy on Benjamin's account, as Pharaoh was smitten for detaining my ancestress, Sarah, for only one night. Another interpretation, now these are the interpretations. As Pharaoh promises and does not keep his word, you are like him in that respect. Do you call this setting your eyes upon him? Another interpretation is, if you provoke me, I will slay you together with Pharaoh. So you have 4 interpretations that are put out there. And so, excuse me, this is what has been interpreted. Many of us have probably heard 1 or 2 of these, and we probably may have only heard 1. But the bottom line is that these are interpretations of this verse. That he is, as he is speaking to him, he is either speaking harsh to him or he's warning him about his conduct towards them. So it's important that we understand that. Verse 19, he says, as your servant, or you asked his servant, he said, from the beginning you saw a pretext against us. What need was there for all these questions? Were we seeking your daughter in marriage, or did you want our sister as wife? And so this is important to understand, because now they are trying to understand, why would you come? You know, if somebody's asking you all these questions about your mishpachah and you don't know them, you're going to take a step back a moment and say, hold up, you asking too many questions. What is your reason for this? And then now we comply with what you ask us to do, but now trouble keeps popping up. Something ain't right. And I believe that Yehuda has started kind of connecting some dots. He has started kind of looking at some stuff saying, hey, hold up, something ain't right with this situation. And we need to dig into this a little further, you know, because I'm persuaded in my mind, he's saying, because, you know, we're already there, so there's nowhere else to go. Right. So we need to deal with this. And so with that being said, he said in verse 20, we said, although we resented your inquisitiveness, we did not conceal anything from you. Now, Yehuda actually spoke these words, but he conveyed a hint to that effect. He adds that the purpose of Yehuda's remarks was to arouse acknowledging. He says his brother is dead. Yehuda spoke an untruth, fearing a demand that his brother also be produced. When he comes back and he said his Abba loveth him or loves him more than the rest, and that is why he did not let him accompany us at first. Now you have to understand, I'm sure that there had to be something that pricked his heart at that moment, that he ahabs us more than he ahabs the rest of us. And anybody that understands, when favoritism is that blunt and that blatant and can be seen like that, there's going to be some issues, even when a person is grown. Whether you are a grown man, whether you are a grown woman, if you've experienced that type of rejection and you've experienced that type of partial, when somebody treats you partial, and you experience that, especially a child being treated partial by one of the parents, this is what causes problems. And this is why you have a lot of men and even a lot of women that are angry. Do y'all hear me? Listen to what I am saying. Yes. That are very angry. And because they are angry, they are malicious, and they're ready to take out their anger on whoever stands in their way. They don't care. All they want to do is, if they are hurt, make somebody else suffer like they suffered. This is why it is important that we know them. Know and watch them that labor among us. Know the people you deal with. Know the people that you are willing to open yourself up to. That's right. This is important for us to understand. And so with that being said, you have to understand why they went through and did what they did. Remember, it was Reuben that said, don't kill the lad. Yehuda didn't care. He did not care. So we have to understand now role reversal. The role has reversed. Now Yehuda is speaking up and saying, you can't do this. Because in spite of them not getting the same kind of affection and attention, they were still not willing to see anything happen to their Abba. Right. So you have to understand that is a position that when you have to take when you are mature. And you have many people say, I get what I can get. I may not can get what they got, but at least I'm getting something. And so it is important that we understand, if we put, listen to what I'm going to say. If you put nuts in the mix, you're going to get a crunchy. You're going to get a crunchy, a hard surface. If you remove them, then you're going to have a smooth, creamy taste, whether it's a cake or a brownie. So it's important that however we build is what the end result is going to be. That's right. That's right. And so this is important we understand. Yes, we understand, but as a people, it is important that we understand that there are certain things going on with us as a people that we need healing from. Yes. We need healing. We need healing in our hearts. We need healings in our mind. We need healing in our emotions. Because when those things are not, when that does not take place, guess what happens? The end results are going to be detrimental. That's right. And this is where people began to lash out and hurt people. And we can see it even in the writings. We can see it here. They were willing to kill their brother. Why? Because they were emotionally hurt. Yes. And when a person is emotionally hurt, you don't know what lengths they will go through to hurt the next person, because all they're thinking about is I'm hurt. So if I'm hurting, guess what? You're going to hurt just as bad as I'm hurting. So this is important for us to look at. And so he continues on and he says this. And in verse 21, he says that I may set mine eyes upon him, to see him, to look after him. And he says, where look well to him is literally set thine eyes upon him. He said, our Abba would die. Literally, he would die. The subject is Benjamin. We are afraid that he will die during the journey, and his mother did. The subject is his Abba. He said, look, you can't put all this on us. It's just, this is enough. Right. Now, you have to understand, I believe that Joseph was trying to make them feel what he felt. But I believe the pivoting moment, or the pivotal moment, was that when they said, our Abba won't be able to take it. You have to understand, when you get to a point that you realize, okay, if I inflict this upon them, then this is going to be afflicted upon them. This is where we look at collateral damage. Right. Collateral damage. And you have to understand, many times we are caught up in collateral damage because of other people's emotional problems. Right. It is so. And this is why it is important. Once again, know them that labor among you. Know and watch them that labor among us. It is very important that we understand this. Right. Because many things could be thwarted and many things could be changed and altered if we will watch certain things. Right. People that are angry are going to show they're angry. They can only suppress it and hold it, but for so long, then you began to see the real them began to peek out. Right. You began to see it in their conversation. You began to see it even in things they do. So it's important that we understand. And he got to a point, he said, look, I'm tired of all of this, and I'm tired of you doing this. And now look at the situation you put us in. I'm not going to continue to go on with this any further. And he said, and he's still addressing him. He said, except your younger brother. He said, you were deaf to our pleas. He said, before we left, we had already told you that if we don't bring him back, and if something happens to him, our Abba is going to die. So he's calling him out on the carpet. And he said, look, I'm about to tell you about yourself. Right. Why? Because here it is. Now you have to understand that. Here it is. He said, you are as Pharaoh. Why would you, now this is in late terms and in our time now, why would you want to play these petty games? What is it about my life that you want, and why is it you want to destroy us? You follow what I'm saying? Yes. These are things that he was really looking at. Why? Because of what was taking place. Now you're going to tell me that we're going to bring our brother here, and all of a sudden your cup is going to be in his bag. What is the probability of that? How could that be so? Are y'all following me? Yes. Very important for us to understand these things. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Now, let's look at let's look at verse 24. When we came up, we told our Abba this immediately returned, but his aha for him he refused until forced by hunger. In spite of this, he warned us that if we did not bring Benjamin back, he would die of grief. He's constantly putting this out there. Why? Because he is trying to make him understand we cannot go back without him. Look, in other words, do whatever you want with us, but he has to go back. He has to go back. It's very important that he goes back. Right. Why does he have to go back? Because if he does not, then we're going to lose our Abba. It's important we understand, as I said before, building blocks in our mishpachah. If we don't use the right kind of building blocks, we will see in the long run, it may take years down the line, but you will see that the building is not all that secure, and it's not straight. It will be so crooked and it'll be so warped. Why? Because of how we build. Right. You have to be careful how you build upon another person's life and build in their life. Because whatever you invest in a person, I don't care if they're grown. I don't care if they're a newborn baby. Whatever you invest in them is what you're going to get out. And watch this. If you don't invest anything in them, you can't expect anything to get out. You can't expect to get anything out of them. When you walk up to a total stranger, that's what you are to them, a total stranger. They're not, you can't look at them to be cordial and to be open with you like someone you know, because you've invested in them. You've invested time in them. You've invested your personal time. You've invested in them. And so it's easier to deal and dialogue with people you have invested in, but people you have not, they're total strangers. Are y'all following me? So you're not going to get that much out of them. You won't get that much out of them. And so it's important that we understand how we build. Very important how we build. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Let us finish reading. Stop at verse 26. Let's start at verse 27. 28. Yes. Start at verse 27. Or 28. 27. And let's read 8 verses.
Bereshith, chapter 44, starting at verse 27. Your servant my Abba says to us, you know that my Isha gave birth to 2 sons for me. One disappeared, and I said, he must have been torn up by a wild animal, and I haven't seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, something terrible will happen to him, and you will send me, old as I am, to my grave in despair. When I now go back to your servant, my father without the young man, whose life is so bound up with his, and when he sees that the young man isn't with us, he will die. And your servants will have sent our Abba, your servant, old as he is, to his grave in grief. I, your servant, guarantee the young man's safety to my Abba, telling him, if I don't bring him back to you, it will be my fault forever. Now please let your servant stay as your slave instead of the young man, so that he can go back with his brothers. How can I go back to my Abba without the young man? I couldn't bear to see how badly my Abba would be hurt. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, let's look at this. This is where you have to really start looking at. This is where this thing gets really emotional, because now he's saying, look, I can't do this. Now, remember, he was the one who wanted to kill him. But you have to understand the years. Now, mind you, Joseph is in his 40s now. Can you imagine the time that he was able to look upon his Abba? Remember, he left too. Remember, he left and the stuff happened with him and his sons, and he lost his son. Now you can imagine now he can identify with his Abba. Joseph is not dead, but he's dead because he's not there. But he lost his 2 sons. Are you following me?
Yes.
He lost them. He had to bury them. He literally had to look upon them. So you have to understand that the things that he endured and the things he went through. And so now his heart, I am sure, has changed.
Right.
Because now he can identify. Now you have to understand, when you can identify with a person, you can be more sympathetic. Because it's like, wow, hey, this is something that hurts. This is something that hurts to the core of your being. I can really see this really hurts. And so he is telling him, he said, look, we can't do this. Because mind you, once again, after he left and came back, from doing his thing and went back, and his father was still in the state he was in. And then you can imagine, excuse me, that he had become so, like he said, wrapped up and involved in Benjamin, that Benjamin, he wasn't going anywhere. I'm not letting Benjamin go, because Benjamin, I remember what he said. He said, my Isha had 2 sons. I believe once again that he did ahab Leah and his other wives, but he did not ahab them like he did Raquel. Why? Because he didn't choose them. They were chosen for him. The one he chose was the one he spent time with. But remember, he didn't spend that much time with her. Because remember, he was basically backwards and forth with them when they was having they war on having children. So they were backwards and forth using him basically to be a donor. But that time that he did spend with her, I'm sure he relished it. So what he got out of that was his 2 sons, and he ahab more than anything else. And he never hid this. He always made it known. So when they grew up, they had to deal with that. And then when they had to tell him that Joseph was gone, but he really wasn't dead, when they saw that, I'm sure that freaked them out. He beating on his chest, and some say that he had a rock and he was cutting himself, and he was just going hard at it, and he was hollering and screaming. You can imagine what he was going through if you could just kind of put yourself in that place and wonder, this is a person he hopped on. When you hop somebody, you lose something, or something is taken away, and now it's no longer there. This is his expression. And nobody could comfort him. So you can imagine for all those times in those years that he rejected them, didn't want to be in their presence, didn't want to deal with them. But the whole time he's embracing Benjamin, and he's pouring all that on him. So now it's to this point, it's like, no, we can't do that. We've done enough harm. We can't do this. And he is pleading with him. If we do this, he's going to die. And in spite of our error and in spite of what we've done, we will not do him like this. You have to make up in your mind that there are some things that you just won't do.
Right.
No matter how mad you get, no matter how angry you get, no matter how you are determined to try to get back at someone, there are just some things that you just won't do.
Right.
This is where we have to have a conscience, and where you have to have that mindset that says, I won't exact the same thing upon them.
Okay.
Because now, mind you, Yehuda is living with that he does have 2 sons that are dead. And so he can't do this. He doesn't want to lose his album. You have to understand, he already lost enough. And it's almost like, we lost, what we wanted, we weren't getting, but now if we do this, we won't have him at all. So you have to understand the plea, and he's pushing this home. He's pushing it home. Once again, we've got to get to a place in our lives that no matter how you do me, no matter how much hurt you may bring that. Now, that's not saying that we won't be tempted to do that, but that doesn't mean we have to fall and do it.
That's right.
We can walk away and say, I won't do it, because I don't want you to experience what I've experienced. I don't want you to feel how I have felt.
Right.
I don't want you to feel that way. It's important that we understand that.
That's right.
And it is so.
It is so.
He said, now she was the only woman I really wanted for a wife. And so it is though I only had her 2 sons. Now you can imagine what he felt like having to tell that to Pharaoh or to Joseph, and then being able to say, but we here too. But it was as though he only had 2. So you got to understand, family issues can be real nasty.
Right.
It can be really hurtful. And if you don't grow and mature and say, you know what, Abba Yahuwah, it might be so, but I'm not going to do what they did to me. I'm not going to do that in turn to them.
Right.
I won't let myself do that. It's important we understand that.
Yes.
He's telling him, he said, now, Benjamin is my comfort for the loss of his mother and brother. If he dies, it will be as though the 3 died on one day. He said, look, we can't do this. He said, if I do this, he said, he's going to literally die. There are times that you have to look beyond what you see and say, if I do this, this ain't going to be right. It just ain't going to be right. And if I do this, the hurt that it's going to cause, I can't do this. There has to come in our lives a level to where we say, I can't. I would, but I won't. And I'm not going to do it because I don't want that person to experience what I've experienced. And it is so.
And it is so.
He says, now, therefore, since he warned us to so strongly, he will disregard all that happened here. And it will be as if we had deliberately brought this misfortune upon him. He said, if you do this, it's done. It's over. It's over for us, and it's over for him. He said, and he's telling him, he said, we will truly bring down the gray hairs of thy servant with sorrow to the grave. He's like, please, you can't do this. You get to a point where you don't want to see something happen. You have to understand, when you get desperate, desperation will cause you to beg. Right. People say, I'm too proud to beg. I'll never beg nobody. There are times when you get to a point in your life where you can say, Abba Yahuwah, I know I don't have to beg you, but I am asking you, please, I don't want to have to go through this. Right. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Well, you have to humble yourself and you say, look, I don't want to go through this because I don't want to see them go through this. So please help me so that I don't. Remember the prayer of Jabez when Jabez said, look, I don't want to hurt nobody. Mm-hmm. He said, Baruch me indeed. He said, enlarge my borders. And in that same prayer, he said, so that I don't hurt anybody. When you've been hurt, if you don't keep yourself prayed up and ask Abba Yahuwah to keep you from hurting other people, guess what? That'll become your mission in life, to hurt other people because you've been hurt really, really bad. And this is important. And this has nothing to do with gender. We see that here. These are grown men, but they're still hurting.
Yeah.
Anytime a man would be willing to sacrifice his own 2 sons to ensure that his brother come back to get the attention or the affection from his Ahab, there's a problem.
Right. Yes.
There is a problem there. And it stems emotionally. This is why it is important that we learn how to Ahab. It is important that brothers learn how to Ahab their sons, learn how to kiss them, learn how to embrace them, learn how to show them they can be masculine and hug you and kiss you on the cheek, and you can kiss them on the cheek and ain't nothing funny about it.
Right.
Because they learn that 95% of homosexuality is stemmed because they were rejected by their Abba. And because they were rejected, they try to find a unnatural Ahab in another man, which now makes them become this individual that opens themselves up to demonic influence and then demonic possession.
Right.
When you begin to listen to some of the stories, even people that walk in lesbianism, and you hear the story and you hear, because my Ema was this way, my papa was this way, then you say, there it is. They were not shown that Ahab. And understand what I'm saying. You have to be in a position. People, let me say this. Let me slow down some. I'm not making excuses for people's actions or for what they desire. But what I am saying is that many times these things come about because if we are the ones that's influencing them and are part of their lives, do you not know that whether you invest or you not, we still become a product or an investor in their lives? I'm in no way condoning homosexuality or lesbianism. I am telling you that there are times that it stems from rejection from the parents. It stems from that. These brothers out here looking for a man to validate them. And when they do find one, instead of him validating him, he basically turns him out and basically turns him into something that he was vulnerable to. Because he's thinking, hey, this brother's going to embrace me. He's going to be that male figure. No, he turns around and he emasculates him because he sees he's vulnerable. We don't like to hear this, but it's the truth. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And this is what the enemy does all the time. And it's important that we, as a people and as the chosen people of Yahshua, be able to look and ask Abba Yahuwah for discernment. Abba Yahuwah, help me to discern what's going on. Help me to pray. Help me to see so that I can be a Baruch. And that doesn't mean always getting up close and personal with somebody and all in their face. That means that if you have to pray from a distance and know, Abba Yahuwah, there's something going on. This person is angry. And because they're angry, they don't care about who they hurt. They don't care. All they want to do is find shalom in hurting somebody else. And it may sound awkward, it may sound twisted, but people get jollies out of hurting other people because they've been hurt. So it's important that we understand. And he's saying to him, he said, we can't do this. I cannot. He said, keep me. But he can't stay. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. I believe it was at that point Yehuda was ready to go head on and lose his life to make sure that Benjamin got back home. I believe he was going to be like a bull in a china shop. He was about to get loose up in there because he's like, I can't do this. We're not. This is just gone too far. This is enough, and I'm going to call it now because I'm not going to do that anymore. Right. It's important we understand and see. Verse 32, thy servant became a surety. That is why I am speaking and not my brothers. The responsibility rests upon me. It is for this reason that I offer to be a slave in his stead. Our Abba will assume that he is dead. Otherwise, I certainly would have brought him home since I became surety for him. He said, instead of the lad, I am more fitted than he for every purpose in strength, for fighting and for personal service. Now you have to understand, this is the point that I believe that Joseph was ready to see his brothers get to. Because remember, they had no problem giving him over to strangers. Right. They had no problem with selling him for, 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah.
They had no problem. It was 30 or 20 pieces of silver, 20 or 30. It was 30 pieces of silver. They had no problem. But this time it's like, no, because we understand the errors of our ways.
Right.
And if we don't correct the errors of our ways, we will continue to perpetuate this, and we can't afford this. This is important for us as a people. Once you do something and you know when you keep doing that, it brings about harm and hurt and danger,
Right.
stop it. Stop it. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Just stop. Stop it. Because you don't want to continue to bring hurt upon anybody's life,
Right.
anybody's life. So it's important that we understand this. Why am I saying this? Because we have seen and we have heard many things that have happened. And if we don't get a handle on this, we will continue to see it. It's sad, and our hearts are grieved, but people, we have to watch the warning signs. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We have to. We have to watch and listen as well. And so he was like, I can't do this. I can't put him through that pain anymore. When you help somebody, you don't want to see them hurt. You don't. And it doesn't take them crying 4 and 5 times. It shouldn't take them threatening you. It shouldn't take any of that. It should take your heart for them that says, I can't see them hurt like this anymore. I can't see them brokenhearted like this anymore. And if it means that I got to sacrifice myself for this to be right, then guess what? I will do so. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. All right. We read to chapter 45.
Yes.
All right. What verse did we read in chapter 45? To verse 1. All right. Now, this is where I believe, after all Yehuda has said, what really got him, what we have the term when you get full, if you've ever been so full that you couldn't hold yourself no more because your heart is aching. And you imagine now, you got to remember, he's been estranged from his baby brother all those years. Because remember, he was 17. So if he was 17, that means Benjamin had to be no more than about 7. He could only have been about 7. Now he's a young man. And so you can imagine, the heartache. And even though he was successful in his work, his family part was still very challenging. Now, I want to say this, which is important. Just because a person is successful in their business venues and dealing with other things doesn't mean that they're successful and happy in their mishpachah. Are you following me?
Yes.
Especially when there are voids and there are issues that have not been dealt with. There are not doors that need to be closed. There are doors that need to be open that are not open. And when you continue to deal with these things, guess what? It's just like a snowball effect. It continues to increase as things continue to happen. And this is why, once again, we find ourselves sometimes at a gridlock. Why? Because we're dealing and we're successful in one area, but when it comes down to our mishpachah, we're struggling. We're struggling because we feel like the more successful we are, the easier it is to put that behind us and deal with us. It's not. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's very important that we deal with it. Whether the person wants to deal with you or not, it's important that we deal with it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, because every man calls every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and the Mitzrayim heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. That boy was hollering. That boy was crying. He was crying. He was in so much pain, but at the same time, relief. He was in so much relief at being able, after all these years, to deal with what had been before him all those years, but he could never deal with it because he couldn't leave. He had to stay where he was. Let me tell you something. There comes a point in our lives that we have to deal with and bring ourselves to a place of release.
That's right.
He couldn't hold it no more. But I believe, as I said before, his purpose in antagonizing them was to see how far they would go in protecting Benjamin. Because you got to remember now, it's in his court and his responsibility to protect them. But how could he protect them if they were not willing to protect Benjamin?
Right.
Remember, he is the governor of Mitzrayim. He is the governor. He is the one that handles all this, and everybody from all around has to come to him for help. But how could he help them if they were willing once again to do what they did to him, to his little brother? So you got to understand why he went through the lengths he went through to try them, to challenge them, to see if they would be willing to put their lives on the line for him to preserve his life. Because remember, they were not willing. So they had to grow up, and they all had to learn from this very situation right here.
Right.
Now you have to understand once again, when a person cries out like that, that's more like wailing. That's that thing that comes up out of your belly, because that thing is in your heart. That comes up out of here. That's from your strength. And it comes up out of the strength of your loins, and you're crying because you have, after all these years, you're able to do what? Get a release. You're hearing, my papa is still alive.
Right.
My baby brother is fine. My older brothers are still all right, and they have changed. They're not the same as they were before.
Right. Right.
Now, many would say, but what if your people don't change? It doesn't matter if they don't change. Make sure you change.
Right.
We have to be the ones that change.
Right.
And whether they ever change or not, it is in our court to do so, because we are the ones walking in truth.
That's right. That's right.
So it's important that we understand this. Very important. But that boy was wailing, and everybody heard it. So you can understand, he had this pent up in him for what? Years. He had this pent up in him for years. When you have stuff pent up in your heart, and you have stuff festering in your heart for years, it's hard to do things. This is why sickness becomes prevalent in our bodies. This is why we become weak. This is why we become skeptical of trusting people, because we still have issues going on inside of us. Because when you are hurt to the core of your heart, I'm surely not gonna lie, because I don't believe in it. It takes time to trust again, because you don't want to go through that again.
Right.
And the person that did it, it is up for them to prove to you. But at the same time, you got to prove that you, whether they repent and ask you for forgiveness, you got to make up in your mind that you're going to keep moving forward, and you're going to let that go and not hold on to it for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because it will make you sick. It will make you sick. We've heard it, but it will. It'll make you sick if you don't let it go.
Oh, yeah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, verse 3. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were affrighted at his presence. Now remember, he done shaved his head off. He got all this makeup on. And now he's speaking their dialect. But at first, remember, he could speak Mitzrayim as well, because he was there. He had to learn all that. So I'm sure he spoke fluent, all language fluently.
Right.
But he began to talk with them, and like they scared, because they thinking, is he a ghost? All this time we've been dealing with this person, and this has been our brother all this time. And so you have to understand, they were scared, but at the same time, I'm sure in their heart of hearts, they were relieved. They were relieved because he was still what? Alive. They were relieved. And so you can imagine, once again, the celebration. And he tells them, in verse 4, and Joseph said unto his brethren, come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Mitzrayim. Now you got to tell them, remember, y'all sold me into Mitzrayim, because they're thinking he's dead. They don't know what his state was, but he tells them. And this right here is the beginning of the healing process. This is the beginning of the healing process. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
The beginning of the healing process. And listen what he says in verse 5. And now be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that you sold me hither. For Yahuwah did send me before you to preserve life. He understood. So he understood that this was a means by which Yahuwah got him where he needed to be. Do you know that sometimes dealing with mishpachah is the reason why now many of us are walking in truth? It is. Because of the way we were pushed and the way we were done. And we're walking in truth. So we give them, we celebrate and salute them for that. But now we have to begin also to remember that now we can't hold that anything against them.
Right. Yeah.
And then you got to let them know, don't be worried. Don't fret yourself because of what you did. If you hadn't done what you did, guess what? I wouldn't probably be walking in truth today or too young. So it's important we understand this. And so It's very important for us to see these things. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now it's very important, like I say, and it says Joseph could not refrain those that stood by. He could not bear that by the standard bystanders should hear his brothers be put to shame. And so he told me, he said, he put them out. He said, everybody leave, because he didn't want all their business being out there. Now you have to understand, while they were listening before he revealed himself, they didn't know this. So when he put them out there, sometimes that don't nobody need to know what's going on with your mishpachah, but you and them. And unless it's somebody that can help you resolve it, everybody don't need to know.
Right.
Because this just makes the situation worse. Because then they go tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and they tell somebody, they say, well, I thought I was helping because I was just asking them what they knew. Then they tell somebody, then they tell a blabbermouth. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Then they got the blabbermouth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we understand there's some things you have to say in private with your mishpachah, because you don't want people hearing and seeing everything. Now they did hear him crying, and I'm sure they probably was wondering what didn't happen to him. He hollering that loud, and Pharaoh could hear it in his house. It's like, boy, what happened? But there are times, once again, where you need that release. And one thing about it is that when our mishpachah come in and they start living in truth, we want to make sure that we live in this life the way we're supposed to. We want to live it. We want to live it the right way.
Right. Yes.
And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let's read some more. Let's read a little bit more. I stopped at verse 5. Let's read 6. Let's read 8 verses.
Verse 6. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there will be 5 more years without plowing or harvesting. Yahuwah sent me ahead of you to establish you as a remnant within the land and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Therefore it was not you who sent me here, but Yahuwah. He has made me an Abba to Pharaoh, power of his entire household and ruler over all the land of Mitzrayim. Return quickly to my Abba and say to him, this is what your son Yosef says. Yahuwah has made me master over all Mitzrayim. Come down to me without delay. You can settle in the land of Goshen and be near me, you, your children and grandchildren, your sheep, cattle, and all you have. There I will sustain you, for there will be 5 more years of famine. Otherwise you, your household, and everything you have will become destitute. Behold, your eyes and my brother Benjamin's eyes can see that it is I, Yosef, who am speaking to you. Tell my Abba about all my esteem in Mitzrayim, about all you have seen, and bring my Abba here quickly. When Yosef threw his arms around Benjamin and wept, Benjamin wept on his shoulder. And Yosef kissed each of his brothers as he wept, and afterward his brothers talked with him. And it is so.
And it is so. And you have to understand that that was the family mishpachah reunion to beat the band. That was just one that was just so emotional. But watch this, they were able to deal with some things. They were able to get those things that had been dormant for years. Now listen now. Now understand why he had to put them out as well. This is important for us to understand why he also had to put them out. In addition to the reason given, it might have been dangerous to let the Mitzrayim know all that had transpired. Firstly, because they might have refused permission to the brothers to settle in the country, on the ground that if they had treated their own brother in this manner, how would they act toward the Mitzrayim? Moreover, they might lose belief also in Joseph. So he had to use wisdom. In spite of him dealing with what was before him, he had to remove them. Once again, it is important because sometimes there are things that can be said and done, and everybody's not ready to hear certain things about your mishpachah. They're not ready because people quickly take sides. You don't know if they'd pull it out and start trying to cut folk up and so forth. So it's important that we, once again, have discernment and we're able to discern what should be said and what should not be said. Because this is why, too, it's important, and I'm going to say this, in reference to a situation that happened, and we know we're still praying for the family. I'm not going to call the young lady's name out because everybody already knows what is happening. We want to pray for them. I don't know that much about her or her, but I do see that she was a Yapa young lady and whatever, and the situation where she ended up losing her life. Now you have to understand something, people. It is important that we understand that you know people. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we do this. And the sad thing about it is that most of the time you have men and women that prey on people because they know what? They know the history of their mishpachah. And most of the time they believe, well, ain't nobody gonna care because she don't have nobody in her life. Even if you don't have anybody that will stand with you, remember, you still have a nation of people that's standing with you and that's for you.
Right.
And this is why we should never say, well, my mishpachah, they don't care nothing about me. They don't care nothing. If I live, they think I'm retarded and crazy because I'm walking in truth. That may be so, but it is not the person outside of truth or pretending to be in truth business. Because you never want them to come back and use that against you.
Yes.
Because if people feel nobody's going to come looking for you, if people feel nobody's going to care about you, then guess what they will do? They will find a way to do something harmful to you. Now, I'm not saying that this young lady did that because I don't know. But what I am saying, people, nation of Yasharal, we have to be careful.
That's right.
Yes.
We have to be careful. Because when we're not careful, we make ourselves vulnerable. And I will say this, any person in any camp that's endorsing them, we need to disconnect ourselves from them and we need to disown them. We need to make it known and let it be known. No, we don't endorse that. And no, we do not support them at all.
Right.
Period. And if you are an affiliate of theirs, we don't support you either because we do not condone murder. So it's important that we understand these things. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
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 Very important. Be careful of what comes out of your mouth. Be careful of who you allow to listen in on conversations, because you could be a person that could be talking and you could hear people standing around. See people standing around and you're talking about, well, my people, they ain't in truth. And because they ain't in truth, I can't really deal with them. They don't want nothing to do with me. Now you will become prey to somebody that does not have any scruples and that don't have any morals.
Right.
And they will prey on you. And if they can't have you, then guess what they will do? They'll take you away.
Right.
So it's important that we understand. Once again, very important we understand. Wisdom is important in any situation we find ourselves in. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand these things and understand it. Once again, our hearts go out to the mishpachah, and we will continue to pray for them, and we will continue to pray for us as a people, as a nation, that we will close in the gaps and that we will bridge in the gaps and that we will be a people that will pray consistently, not just when tragedy happens, but we will pray as it is given unto us to pray 3 times a yom, in the morning, in the noontime, and at night.
Right.
It is important that we pray around the clock. We never come off our wall of prayer.
That's right. That's right.
To keep us hedged up and keep us covered. So it's important that we understand why he put them out. And so it's important that we don't allow people to be in our business and we don't know them and we don't know their moral standards. We don't know where they stand in certain issues and certain beliefs. You don't want to do that, because if you do that, you could cause harm to yourself and even somebody else. So it's important that we understand these things. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right. Now listen what he says unto them. He says, now, come near to me, I pray you. Seeing them hang back, he spoke gently to them and showed them that he was circumcised, so that those who hear my weeping will not hear about my sale. Once again, so you have to understand, he had to be careful. Now, y'all have to understand, when it means that he showed them that he was circumcised, he uncovered himself in front of his brothers. Because remember, they couldn't see anything else.
Right.
He was shaven and he had makeup on, so they couldn't see him, but they could show that. Now, one thing is important for us to understand, and as we continue, Yahuwah willing, to go down through the teachings, you will find out that this was one of the reasons why many of our people stopped being circumcised. because they wanted to fit in with everybody else. And the way they could tell that they were Ibram is because they had been circumcised. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. So he revealed himself, and somebody would say, well, wouldn't that be nasty? No, because he wasn't doing it for a immoral reason. He was doing it to show them that he was who he said he was.
Right. Right.
He wasn't flashing them. He was showing them who he was, because everything else had been changed. That's the only thing that couldn't be changed. His circumcision.
Right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Whom ye saw, that I am aware of the incident, is proof that I am your brother, since none else knew that I was your brother. He said, I am an Abba, a protector and instructor. Now you have to understand, he was put in a position of his Abba, meaning he had full. He told him, he trusted him that he would tell him the right thing and he would do it. He said, hasten ye. He said, spend no more time in grieving. You know, even though he was a younger brother, you know, that's the one that says, look, I've come through it. Now spend no more time in grieving. Let's get up and let's move forward. Let's do this. But now you have to understand, people have to really be sorry for what they've done.
True.
Because if you're not really sorry, guess what? You will repeat it again. You will do the same thing over and over and over again. So we have to be sorry for our actions, especially what harm and hurt it causes to the people we say we're harm. And it is so.
And it is so.
He said, go up. He said, Canaan stands higher than the adjacent countries. He said, thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen. Now Joseph knew that his Abba would not wish to live in the capital, so he informed him in advance that he would reside in Goshen. And we see that in verse 10. As he tells them, he says, now go quickly, go get him. Bring him back to me. Bring him back. Now, mind you, he has been away from his Abba for 37 years, and they had a relationship that was truly, truly unique. And he told him, he said, you know, I want you to come here. He said, because I want to take care of you. I want you to come here because I want to make sure you're taken care of. Because he told me, he said, now remember, this is only 2 years. We still have 5 years to go. Now it was already in that second year getting really, really hard. I need you all to come. So it's important for us to understand who puts us in a position to be a help, that's what we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to hold grudges and be going through. Now somebody will say, but he held a grudge. No, he didn't. The reason he did what he did, once again, is that you have to understand he did this to ensure, just marking my stuff, to ensure that they would fight on the behalf of their younger brother. And that if a situation ever arose, that they would be willing to fight and preserve their lives and not be willing to give it over to somebody else like they did him.
Right.
So this is why he put them through a strenuous, rigorous time of questioning and putting them in these positions that really caused them to think, you know, is this a omen because of what we've done? What is it? Why is this happening to us? Because he wanted to see that, you know, hey, I'm about to help you all, and I'm about to bring you all into a place. Now listen to what I'm about to say, of wealth. You are about to not have to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. You're going to suffer for nothing, but I need to know I can trust you. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to know the people or the mishpachah you're getting ready to help is trustworthy.
God.
That I can trust you. You ain't gonna get here and stab me in the back and do nothing crazy.
Right, right.
That's wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get the wrong people in there, now you're going to suffer and you're going to be removed from that position. So he had to put them in that position. Am I saying put your family in that? Absolutely not. I am not telling you to do that. But what I am saying is use discernment and pray and ask the Abba and deal with them. Deal with them. You know, you can't hide yourself and be pretending to be somebody or something you're not. But be open and tell them, hey, we need to deal with this. This has to be resolved because I can't help you. And you definitely can't help me if we got this in between us. Because nothing will be able to be accomplished if we have these things in between us. Right. So I want to encourage you once again to continue to pray for your mishpachah. Continue to pray for the nation of Yasharal as a whole. And we want to continue to pray for that sister and her family. Continue to pray for them and lift them up and continue to pray. And I will say this, pray for the man that did it. Whatever the justice is for him, that he gets it.
Right.
That is my prayer.
That's right.
And so let us once again continue to aham, and let us continue to keep our head up, keep our shoulders squared, and keep our heart and our feet in and upon the Torah, because we can't go wrong if we continue to walk in his instructions and obey him. I am Aliyah Yasharal, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, Hebraic Belief Ministries located in South Carolina. I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, Hebraic Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the body excellent. Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.